Don't forget. Okay, well, good morning. This is the CJCC Operations Committee meeting for November 8th of 2023. Thank you all for taking the time to be present today. The item on the agenda is call of the roll, but since we have some new members, maybe if you could introduce yourself and then direct it to someone else. So I can start since I'm the only one unmuted. I'm Andrea Nodoff, the district attorney. Got suckered into being the chair of the CJCC for a period of time. So I will send it off to Paula Winter.
Good morning, I'm Paula Winter. I am the director of the Human Services Department in Dunn County. And I will send it to Janae.
Morning, I'm Janae Brantner, the Dunn County Treatment Opportunity Program Coordinator. Next, I see Sarah Benedict.
All right, I'm Sarah Benedict, Criminal Justice Director and Coordinator of the CJCC. And I see Sarah from the Bridge.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm with the Bridge to Hope. I'm filling in for Jamie while she's on maternity leave. I'll pass it off to Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle, Corrections Field Supervisor for DOC here in Dunn County, and I will pass it off to Chief Hollister.
Hello, Chief Hollister, Menominee PD, and I support and think Andrea is doing an awesome job for the chair position there, and I think we can look at extending her if she would like that for down the road purposes. Moving on, let's who else do we got here? Is there a Shelley there I see, Metzer?
Hello, everyone. I'm a guest speaker today, but I am the substance abuse counselor inside of the Dunn County Jail.
I'll jump on. We had a couple latecomers. Sheriff Kevin Bigg for Dunn County. Judge Peterson, passed off to you to introduce yourself. Kind of self-explanatory, I guess, but.
Another late arrival. My Zoom client decided to update itself as I was trying to enter the meeting. Kelly McCullough, County Board Chair.
I'm Chris Corpola. I'm the county manager. And Andrea, it's not suckered in. It's you have the great privilege of serving this key role. John, you there?
Thanks, Chris. John Calabrese, County Board Supervisor, District 14, and I'm here representing the Judiciary and Law Committee. And I think Judge Peterson is the only one left, I think.
Helene.
Helene.
Helene too.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess I'm Jim Peterson, Branch 1 Circuit Court Judge. And there you go.
And I'm Colleen Edsbach. I was a previous program coordinator for the criminal justice program at UW Stout, and currently practicing therapist in Menominee as well as Wabasha.
And I think Judge Peterson, you failed to mention that becoming a judge, a circuit court judge in Dunn County is the most dangerous county position for injury and disability.
Yeah, I'm really being careful, watching my step. I've had my share of falls, and so Judge Meyer hopefully be back soon. She had one, so let's hope that's it. No more. So.
Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. In the packet was the minutes from the October 4th of 2023 last meeting that we had for executive and operations. Anyone like to make a motion regarding approval of the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the minutes, additions, deletions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 4th of 2023 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Next item is public comment. Don't think we have any. No. And we have a pretty quick meeting. I'm hoping we maybe even end a little early, but we have a little bit more of exciting meeting in that we don't have any, action items. We are hopefully just going to hear from some individuals and kind of go over our educational component. And so I think the next item will be hearing from Shelley Jo Metzger.
Okay, I'm up, Sarah. Let's start with fentanyl.
Okay.
I'm here.
So I will, just noting that I will tee up the PowerPoint, so
I'm going to present to you guys on fentanyl, xylazine, and maybe, okay, Sheriff, kratom, what are we calling this?
Kratom.
Kratom. I just wanted to make sure that's the one that everybody's using.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make these short because they are basically just informational stuff for you guys to understand the substances that are fairly new and the ones that are coming out. I don't think anybody here has seen the kratom, but we have seen the fentanyl, and the xylazine is starting to come in. So I just want to give you a brief overview of what fentanyl is to begin with. Like, go to the next one, Sarah. So what is fentanyl? It is an actual opioid, and the opioids actually attach to receptors in the brain, which basically is what gives the person the high. And fentanyl is and has been for a long time prescribed as a chronic pain medication. Unfortunately, now it's being used as an opioid for the high that everybody is getting. I don't know if everybody can see both of those slides or just one of them, Sarah.
They're both showing for me.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Anyway, you can go on to the next one, Sarah. So we do have some, I did put up some examples of opioids that actually are illegal. We have codeine, fentanyl, Vicodin, tramadol, methadone, oxycodone, Percocet, oxymorphone, and then morphine and Demerol. I don't think any of those are new to anybody on this call. Obviously, the fentanyl has been becoming way more popular, and I have been seeing it more in the jail with the population here, as in not using the other opioids, but fentanyl instead of per se heroin. The fentanyl has many names. So some street names of fentanyl are China Girl and Chinatown, which we usually associate the word China with the drug called heroin. Sarah, you can go to the next one. Okay. Friend, I have not heard of most of these. These guys here do not use these names with me when I meet with them. Dance Fever, Goodfellas, Great Bear, He-Man, Jackpot, King Ivory, Murder 8, Poison, Tango and Cash, Apache. I have to say the street names are constantly changing. So even if I did hear these, I probably would have to ask them which drug they meant. I don't know about anybody else, but it seems to change quite quickly. And as far as fentanyl, the example here is a lethal dose of fentanyl that's on top of the pencil tip. That's not very much. The forms that it comes in, as you can see, is usually liquid, and then it's made into the dry form of a powder, but it comes in all these forms, and I gave a picture of examples of all those bags of everything from pills to the dry form. There's patches, so there's many forms. And the normal way that I have been hearing people using it is basically the oral, smoking it and sniffing it. I don't hear a lot about the patches anymore. I've never heard here about blotter paper. However, I'm sure that's probably true with a lot of people. And yes, you can use it through eyedroppers and nasal sprays. I don't think this is the only drug that people have used through that type of venue. The fentanyl is usually combined with some other substance. However, I can say it's increasing here, I noticed, on its own. And why do people use it? They use it because it relaxes them. It gives them a euphoria. Obviously, it gives them pain relief, and it is cheaper than heroin. So if it is mixed with some other substance, it actually enhances their high, and it decreases their withdrawal symptoms. Thank you, Sarah. And then what happens when somebody takes the fentanyl, and this is the negative effects. They have nausea, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, confusion, weakness, fatigue, dizziness, headache, impaired balance, lowered blood pressure, and sometimes a rash. I would say that a lot of these are just basically associated with opioids when they're using them more than they should be. And then the long-term effects, mood instability, reduced libido, constipation, menstrual problems, and respiratory impairment. If anybody has been on anything like a Vicodin or oxycodone, I'm sure you can probably relate to some of these effects. The withdrawal symptoms are very similar to any opioid withdrawal symptoms. Goosebumps, chills, irritability. I think the irritability probably lasts quite a long time. We see that here in the jail. Insomnia, that's pretty much typical of any drug use. Loss of appetite, yawning and sneezing, the watery eyes and runny nose. Cravings, again, is pretty typical with any substance use. Vomiting or nausea, diarrhea, uncontrolled leg movements, increased heart rate, general weakness, and depression. A lot of those are associated with other substance use, but there's some of them like the goosebumps, the watery eyes, uncontrolled leg movements, yawning and sneezing that are really associated with the opioids. And then overdose symptoms, believe it or not, it is chest pains. We probably wouldn't think of that because it is a decrease in your breathing. So it is a lower type of a drug that kind of brings your breathing and everything down, but you can have chest pains, obviously the slowed breathing, their lips turn blue. I don't know what the word skim is. Sorry, I forgot. I don't think that's right. Seizures, passing out, obviously death. There's coma, pinpoint pupils, falling asleep or losing consciousness. This is pretty typical of any excessive overdose use of opioids. Choking or gurgling noises and a limp body. I have seen people who aren't overdosing, but they are high and they're sleeping. They have snoring noises coming from them and their body goes limp. So obviously there's a point to that where they could overdose and pass away. And then I did find a map of overdose fatalities from 2021. And in the state of Wisconsin, the typical age or the most reported age, I guess, would be 18 to 36. And it shows on here that it was 1,775. And obviously this is not just from opioids. This is, all overdose. So I don't know what the breakout would be for just opioids, but since some of y'all are data people, I thought I'd throw that in there. And then what do you do if you suspect an overdose? Well, we call 911, obviously. And then if you do have naloxone on you, please administer it. Make sure you keep, if you can, more than one box near you because you may need more than two. You try to keep the person awake and breathing. You probably are going to have to put them in position to make sure that they don't choke and they can breathe. And then you're going to make sure you stay with the person until emergency services arrive. I can say I do now have, and I'm proud to say, 2 boxes of Narcan in my car with me. It's taken me a while to remember to take one home with me. So make sure you guys have them with you because you never know when you're going to need them. And there are treatment options for people with opioid use disorders. We have the methadone, which is a full agonist. And then we have the buprenorphine, which is a partial agonist. And then we have naltrexone, which is an antagonist. So here in the jail, we offer the naltrexone, the full antagonist. And obviously the naloxone is also a antagonist, which means that it blocks the receptors from getting any of the substances to either make them feel good or overdose. The methadone is a full antagonist, which means that they're basically getting the full, what do I want to say, that it binds to the receptors and gives them that type of high that they're looking for. So they can still get high on methadone. The buprenorphine, which is like Suboxone, is a partial antagonist. And so it has some of the per se naltrexone in it, along with the opioid medication. I did give you small references. I know we don't have time to go through them, but if you do want more information, I also have some other references, and I do have a few articles if anybody's interested in those, that if you'd like to read more about fentanyl. And so the next one I'll go to is xylazine.
One second.
Oh, you didn't get this one downloaded, Sarah? Are you going to be able to go forward? Oh yeah, you are. Okay, never mind. So again, I'm going to follow the same agenda with all of these as in what is xylazine. So the next slide, Sarah. No. Anybody on here learning more or hearing more about the xylazine in our area? No. That's good to hear. How about you, Rick? So anyway, xylazine is, it's actually called tranq, or excuse me, tranq dope. It's a non-opioid sedative or a tranquilizer. Although not a controlled substance in the United States, xylazine is not approved for people. And that is per the CDC.gov. And then also taking opioids in combination with other central nervous depressants like benzodiazepines, alcohol, or xylazine actually increase the risk of life-threatening overdose. That's because it decreases the ability to breathe. And when you do combine even two of them together, it can be not good. I know when I worked at the methadone treatment center, we would still have people that were using alcohol, and it was so dangerous that we would make them sit there for a few hours to make sure that they weren't actually overdosing. And then how are people exposed to xylazine? So it is an illegal drug, and xylazine is usually mixed with other illegal drugs such as heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl, and then other illicit manufactured countered pills. And the reason that people use the xylazine is because it actually increases the high. And it also is used or mixed with the other substances because it increases the value, which means that it's basically adding more weight to the substance. that it's being mixed with. The way that xylazine is taken is usually through an injection, snorting, swallowing, or inhaling. And what happens when somebody does take xylazine? Again, it is like the fentanyl, so it does reduce the pain, slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, slows the breathing, can again be sedation. There is a possibility of shock and coma. And then the thing that is probably different than anything else is that it causes or can cause skin ulcers and abscesses on somebody's body. It doesn't have to be where they're actually injecting it on their body. It can be anywhere that it is showing up for these skin ulcers and sores. I know that I have read many things on the population that does not have housing, like let's say out in California. They're reporting that, they don't go and report that they've used the drug. They don't want people to know that they've used the drugs. So they're not reporting their open wounds. So it's becoming quite bad. Some of the withdrawals of xylazine, again, these are so similar to others substances, is irritability, anxiety, a feeling of uneasiness, rapid heart rate, and high blood pressure. And then what do you do if somebody's using xylazine, or that it's in a substance? Narcan does not work on xylazine. However, if you have the Narcan, continue to use it because you don't know if they have mixed it with other opioids. So continue to use the Narcan. More than likely, it is going to be the same as it would be if it was any other overdose. Call 911. Continue to use Narcan. Stay with the person. I have watched some things about xylazine overdoses, and I can't say that I've seen any difference that people have acted with any other overdose. So one of the ways that we can, as people who want to help other people with harm reduction, is that we want them to know that they don't have to be alone when they use. We have phone numbers that are called, one is called Never Use Alone Incorporated. So there is a nationwide peer support, stigma-free phone number that they can call. There are test kits, obviously, for fentanyl and xylazine. And then always carry the naloxone with them. That is basically the harm reduction that we can do. And what can we do as a community for the xylazine? I think probably the biggest thing for any of the substances is providing education so people can understand what these drugs are and how we can help. Obviously, we have the naloxone test strips, clean needle exchange, wound care kits, written education, any of those type of things. And then partnering with other organizations with lived experience and the teams such as a post-overdose response team or even an overdose prevention team. So the last drug that I was going to talk about is the kratom. And again, what is kratom? Kratom is actually a herbal substance that can produce an opioid and a stimulant-like effect. Kratom and kratom-based products are currently legal and accessible in many areas through the U.S. and international agencies continue to review emerging evidence to inform kratom policy. That is through the NIDA site. And then the consumption of its leaves produces both stimulant effects in low doses and sedative effects, and can lead to psychotic symptoms and psychological and physiological dependence. That is from the DEA. Substance users report that they use kratom to manage their withdrawal symptoms. I do know that it's been on the, I believe, is this correct, Kevin, that it's been put out there that this may become legal in Wisconsin?
There's a very strong push for it to take it off the controlled substance list in Wisconsin right now. They're beating the drum in Madison pretty hard to have it uncontrolled. It's currently illegal in Wisconsin, not in Michigan, and I think Minnesota
Mhm.
might be legal now.
Yeah, I know Minnesota is legal. I have talked with a couple people who have used this to reportedly come off of other opioids, basically. However, I have seen that this is also very addictive. So it has also been reported to enhance sex, relieve pain, reduce anxiety, and relax. I did give you guys some pictures of what kratom is. Obviously, it's a leaf, and then it's made into other forms. And I'm assuming that most people probably relate this as to a natural substance versus a chemically made type of substance. And what are the side effects when somebody uses kratom? Again, these are all so similar to other substances. I mean, nausea, that's pretty similar. Itching, sweating, dry mouth, those aren't as common. Increased urination, I don't really see that one very much with other substances. Obviously, tachycardia, again, vomiting, drowsiness, loss of appetite, not wanting to eat, having weight loss, insomnia. Insomnia is huge with any substance use. Maybe hallucinations may be a little bit different than some of the other ones, but eventually hallucinations even happen when you use alcohol. Hepatox, yeah, that word. And then seizures. That's quite a few side effects of using kratom. So I just have to put it out there. I'm not really sure why they want this to be legal. So how do you use it? There's so many ways to use any drug or substance. But the most commonly way that people use kratom is they mix it with caffeinated beverages, or they mix it with codeine, cough syrup, or it's actually sold as a drink called Kedem. And they also produce it into like what am I thinking here? The nutritional bars, but they are actually kratom, or they have kratom in them. And then the next one is also about how, yeah. So go ahead, Sarah, sorry. And so the past and present factors about kratom, that it has been around for thousands of years, and it was used to combat fatigue, increase energy levels, to increase productivity, and it again relieves pain. And it did start being used in Thailand and Malaysia. And the leaf actually comes from a plant. I don't even want to try to say whatever. And it's in the coffee family. Again, it's native to Thailand and in the south or the southeast regions of Asia. In Thailand, it's considered a controlled substance and is the third most commonly abused illegal drug, which I also find interesting. In the United States, it's considered a drug of concern by the DEA, so I'm sure that that probably will continue for quite some time. And kratom is not lawfully marketed in the US, and this is per, where did I find this? FDA. Where is it legal? That's kind of where Kevin was going into it. So it is legal in all of the green states. It's illegal in the red states. And this may have changed, who knows, since I last looked at this.
And I
Because
think
it's constantly changing.
To clarify though, I think it's classified as it's scheduled as a controlled substance in Wisconsin. It's not necessarily controlled in those other states, even though it may be illegal to sell. So that's the push in Wisconsin right now. But their argument is it's a natural product. Well, so is opioid. I mean, if you slice open a opioid plant, you can get opioids out of that. I mean, cocaine used to be in Coca-Cola too, but doesn't make it right.
Yep. Thanks, Kevin. And so I did include some data again for some of you data people. So it's an estimated 1.7 million Americans aged 12 and older have used kratom in the year of 2021. That's a lot. And then from a study that was published in Drug and Alcohol Dependence, volume 2008, blah, blah, blah. It is reported to be mainly used among middle-aged white Americans at doses of 1 to 3 grams taken orally at daily type of use. And then where do you get it? It's online, smoke shops, head shops. I'm assuming that is probably becoming more popular even in what was I thinking? I don't know if it's actually in the CBD places because it's not, hasn't been, legalized like CBD is, but I'm sure that that will be one of the next places. But however, it says here that some stores selling it like it's a strain of marijuana. And just like marijuana, kratom strains have different effects. So there's different effects such as an energy boost, in the pain relief. And all of these are very similar to how we talk about marijuana in their different forms. But this one doesn't, where I found the information didn't have any names like marijuana does yet. So who knows, that may be coming to, like the Bobby Joe kratom or the whatever they're calling them all. And then safety and cautionary type things is kratom does have a potential to be very addictive. There's fatal overdoses are rare. The long-term effects are actually unknown because this hasn't been highly used in the United States. And some kratom can be contaminated with salmonella bacteria. And there is no FDA-approved uses for kratom. And the FDA made a statement of warning in 2022 for the public not to use kratom. Next slide, Sarah. Oh, that's it. I did have on here a video, but there are quite a few YouTubes out there about people that have used it and are saying that it is very addictive. So whether or not they started out using heroin or fentanyl, yes, they probably got them off the heroin or fentanyl, but now they're addicted to the kratom. So there you go. Just a quickie.
Thank you, Shelley. I guess I'm just curious, are we seeing any of these substances being used? Are they detectable in our urine tests that we're doing? I don't know, Janae or Sarah, anyone can. I'm just curious how often we're seeing them, what percentage?
So as of this point, the CLIA waiver, our standard cups, we cannot use them in, but we do have fentanyl dipsticks. We can send into the lab for xylazine if we are suspecting that, as well as the kratom. I think in my 10 years, we've had one individual we've seen using kratom. Very expensive test. Again, like the fentanyl test strips that we give out to people. We've got that. The xylazine ones, those sound like it's still illegal to possess those in Wisconsin, so we're not purchasing those to give out, obviously. And then no, I guess, standard kratom tests that I know of. Again, all in the lab, yes, but like on-site point of care, no.
And I think the challenge is a lot of times it's being used with other illegal substances. But Dale Schmidt, sheriff in Dodge County, testified at the Senate hearing on kratom. And after that testimony, he was bombarded with thank you letters from parents that have lost children to kratom. And a lot of cases in Florida where kratom was the only substance found in their system after their death. So it's a dangerous substance.
I'd add to it fentanyl, majority of people in our programs, treatment courts, and I'd say about half of top people, primary substance abuse is methamphetamine. Detection rates being at 24 to 72 hours. We aren't always getting that on the point of care test. I would say most individuals that are using though have just admitted that, hey, whatever I'm using is very different. I'm nodding off. That's not normal for my substance. So a lot of people are assuming that they're using and starting to notice that more.
So is it being used to cut meth? Is that, it's getting mixed in with to cut? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions before we go on to our next item?
Bye,
Okay,
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley Jo.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll send out Shelley Jo's slide presentation so everybody can take a look at those resources. And if there's more questions, we can connect back with Shelley Jo on that.
Our next item is an oversight area for the TOP program or treatment opportunity program.
It looks like Janae's getting her slides pulled up here. And I'm gonna let Janae drive here, but we're going to give a little bit of update on the status of TOP and open up for any feedback or recommendations moving forward and answer any questions. So over to you, Janae.
All right, so I've spoken with most of you just kind of about the basics of the TOP program, but wanted to again give this just kind of general overview. Designed to be a 9-month program. People can complete as early as 6 months if they are following through with all areas and being successful. 3 things we're looking at every appointment: case management, are they meeting with me as recommended? Treatment, are they following through with recommendations of their assessment? And then drug and alcohol sobriety and testing. To note on the testing and case management, we supervise based on risk level. Low risk individuals meeting with me and testing approximately once a month, medium risk twice a month, and then high risk weekly. Those can increase or decrease at any time based on need. For example, an individual stopped in this morning that's really struggling, although he's high risk. He's on daily check-ins right now just because the need level is there. So we can really increase or decrease at any point in time. So year-to-date stats, and actually this is overall program graduation rate since the beginning of 2008. We've had 111 graduates and 74 terminations, putting us at a 60% graduation rate. Of those individuals who have graduated, then the people who have reached 1 year post-graduation are at a 15% recidivism rate, 2 years post-graduation, 23%, and then 3 year, 31%. A little bit lower than our treatment courts there, but again, we've got that mixed risk levels and needs. So as of this year, and this is just as of last week, we've had 9 graduates, 8 terminations, and then 6 general discharges, which I'll touch on next. General discharges are not counted in our graduation rate or success rate just because there's some other reason why they're being exited from the program. Really a lot easier for someone to be terminated, say after 3-4 months of non-compliance, than someone that's trying to get through the program successfully being 6-9. I've even had people in up to 15 months. So, it's easier for me to say, yep, you're terminated, or you've been absconding for 2 months. Our termination rates seem to happen a lot faster than those graduation rates. So like I mentioned, on the general discharges, reasons for those, it gets kind of confusing, why is there a neutral outcome? We've had people discharge general just based on medical reasons. They can't follow through with hospitalization, significant things going on. Probation revocation prior to termination. If they've had a level of violations with probation, but they're not to the standard point of termination through TOP. Some people may get revoked prior to being able to complete the TOP program. I guess to note on that too, there is a really standard termination process through TOP. You're coming in every month, you're reporting out on your 3 areas: case management, treatment, and testing. If any area is a no, you haven't met this for your month or week, we're coming up with a case plan of what do we need to do before your next appointment. Once you get to 3 months of non-compliance or failure to follow through, they're signing off on compliance letters, so they have it outlined in writing exactly what they need to do. If they continue not following through, they have a final compliance letter. And again, at that point, then if they don't follow through that last month, then they're terminated. So this probation revocation would be, again, yes, they're having some violations, but they weren't to that standard point of TOP termination. And then another area I've seen has been some high cash bonds for individuals. One in specific was in programming, actually doing really well, but some charges came about from 2017 where they were stemming from. He was held on a really high cash bond, and after 60 days of being unable to participate, again, he wasn't necessarily terminated, but he didn't graduate. So that was another example of a general discharge. Another area there's been some questions about has been the violence definition. With the TAD funding, we are not able to serve individuals with the state definition of violence. They do have a nice violent definition tree that I have on the slides that we'll send out as well. But really going through the tree, I guess I can flip to it quick. So this is what I'm looking at for anyone that's referred to the program. We're starting with their current offense. If they carried, possessed, or used a dangerous weapon, used force against someone, or someone died, they are considered a violent offender. So I've got those kind of laid out here. If none of those are current or the one that's being diverted, then we go to previous offenses. That's the same standards as the one above, but then they also must be a felony level, have use of force against another person with the intent to harm someone or cause bodily harm. Any of those definitions, it gets a little bit confusing at times, but the state's really great about just kind of, talking us through this tree. We do have some county funding that we're able to serve some of these populations, but again, just standard TAD funds, these individuals would be disqualified from programming. The next current challenges and recommendations, one of the big things that I'm seeing, we get, that's the average of maybe 10-ish, 10, 15 referrals a month. We're going through getting these individuals through the assessment process, saying yes, they are eligible, but they're really kind of waiting out there for a long time for their court cases to get resolved. As of yesterday, I've got 39 individuals who are eligible for programming, but we can't start because they don't have, say, that court order or condition of probation yet. So for these individuals, I'm continuing to monitor them. We had met with the DA's office earlier this year. So quarterly, I'm sending out the list of, hey, here's the individuals we're kind of waiting on, also including the defense attorneys on that as well. Another thing, again, with low numbers, it can really kind of tip the scales when I have, say, 2 in a month be terminated, then it looks like we have a not great graduation rate. I had a couple recently just being pulled or probation revoked prior to. So that's kind of, again, tips the scale when we only have, 20 people completed so far. But yeah, with these, again, we're continuing to just kind of monitor the cases, what's going on, where are the outcomes we're getting coming from. We do have an MOU in place with the DA's office. I thought potentially we could do that, Michelle, with your office as well. The agents have been really great with communication, and we understand that there's sometimes things just happen, and their history on probation is different than their history when it comes to us as well. So again, I think just the MOU, continued communication with DOC agents, which again has been really great with both the DA's office and DOC. So continued communication, collaboration there. Any questions for me on top program stats, anything like that? Okay.
All right, well, any discussion or questions about the top program? Okay, hearing none, the next item is local challenges, collaborations, and priorities. I think our Thriving in Recovery Project Hope campaign report was sent out in the packet. I'll turn it over to Sarah to talk about it. She knows more.
Thanks, Andrea. Just a couple updates. So the Thriving in Recovery campaign was funded by the State Department of Justice. We were one of the sites, along with some of the other deflection sites, that really got to partake in this media campaign. So really that professional media company was able to tailor some advertisements, really highlighting Project Hope. So we were able to really focus on one website. So we enhanced the city's Project Hope website. So that would be that one location where people would be able to go for more information on both what the city and the county are doing as far as Project Hope and deflection diversion. The campaign itself, not sure if anybody got to get a sneak peek, but the bottom line is that there was over 1,180,000 viewers or views of the campaign within 3 months here in Dunn County. In the report, you can kind of see some of the stats, but it was on gas station TVs at the Quick Trips. It was on a couple of billboards on I-94. It was in the movie theater for 8 weeks. The internet streaming, local cable streaming, and it really breaks it down by what device people use, what television channel had the most viewers. TV Land was on the top of the list, so that kind of interesting. But overall, it really does give us the number of potential views that people would have, whether they paid attention or did any follow-up action. That's a different measurement. We were able to look at the webpage utilization. We had a 44.5% increase in viewership on our web pages for that Project Hope post the campaign compared to what it was prior to. So a lot of people viewed it. We did get some metrics also on Facebook, the number of people that shared that post or forwarded it on. But essentially over 1 million people or views were had here in Dunn County by the Thriving in Recovery campaign. That campaign was pretty standard as far as the ads, but it did really focus people to get to our website to learn, to get more information. So more information, if you want to read that report, it's in your packet. Any questions on that report? Because that was kind of once and done. So that is over at this point as far as the campaign. All right, back to you, Andrea.
Next item that got sent out was a NACO survey. Sarah mentioned that this is something that she completes, but it would be something that would be good for our group to provide some input on. Quite frankly, there's a lot of things that I think we're already doing and receive a lot of grants for. But I guess we just wanted to open it up to discussion. We're supposed to indicate our top 3 priorities. And so, I know mental health illness in the jail, is something that has been a big discussion. Encouraging substance use disorders at targeting opiates and opioids to include meth and cocaine and fentanyl. I think that I'm just giving my opinion. I think that's interesting, or something that's been important for our group. One, maybe you can address or answer my question on, Sarah, is the increasing funding for emergency management performance grants. I just know that Melissa from emergency management, talks about sort of some updates that need to happen to our system. And I don't know if that would be a part of it, or maybe Sheriff, you know more about that than I do, but those were my initial thoughts.
Yeah, so NACO is the National Association of Counties, and I'm on the Justice and Public Safety Committee. And they do focus both on kind of emergency management, general safety, as well as public safety in the judicial system. So we do get a lot of information and updates regarding like FEMA and emergency management piece. A lot of these are really the advocacy of NACO for the federal government. That's what these priorities are to help them rank what they should be spending their time doing as far as NACO officials and really helping us at the county level move some areas that are important. So this list has 10 different areas, and right there, some are directly related to what we're working on, and some are not necessarily. The first one is the medicated inmate exclusion policy. So I think that is definitely one thing that we feel here on the local level is just when people are incarcerated, the local jail, it is the county that covers the expenses related to that individual, if there are medical needs that are going on, whether that's pretrial, whether that's them serving a sentence. So that's definitely an area that I see that I am glad that NACO is making progress in advocating for this. Some of the other areas, mental health collaboration, we haven't necessarily, those would be like crisis intervention. Those are specific grants that are out there. We haven't necessarily taken part in those funding streams. The third area, Second Chance Act. So that's federal funding for reentry programming. None of our past reentry programming funds have been federal funds. They've been state funds. So we haven't taken part in that. The fourth is National Flood Insurance Program advocacy. The fifth is Emergency Management Performance Grants and hazard mitigation. Sixth area is CARA funding, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. So that's where our CASA funds are under that act. So both the city and the county have CASA funds. So that's from the number 6, the CARA Act. Number 7 is really expanding our interpretation of substance use disorders. So this is one that Andrea mentioned, and really including methamphetamine along with opioid. And we're starting to see that more and more, just really linking those just partially because of the cross-contamination with fentanyl, but then there's also the waves of drug use and the epidemics that people are seeing. Ours has been pretty steady with methamphetamine here, but other communities are starting to take notice of methamphetamine that haven't had it in the past. So it's getting more included. Number 8 is the Juvenile Delinquency Prevention Act. So this is where like our federal family treatment court enhancement grant came out of, really focused in on juveniles and family. There's number 9 is reimbursements for locals having to incarcerate undocumented immigrants. That's not an issue that I hear about too much anyways. And then the last area is continuing to really look at law enforcement innovation and the BURN JAG grants. So a lot of that tends to be for treatment courts and other types of programs. We haven't had any federal funding in our adult treatment court, so to speak. So as a member of this committee, they want our feedback, my feedback, but really like to kind of open this up to the group and get some thoughts.
Well, I'm going to advocate for any federal funding that can assist us with the jail, mental health, and medication assisted treatment stuff, by all means. But I'm certainly biased in my opinion because it comes out of my budget. But any help there, we're paying over $20,000 just for a mental health provider to come into the jail annually on top of our medical provider. So I think Shelley Jo jumped off, but I think she could probably tell you we could use a full-time mental health provider in the jail. And that's, we're only at about 12 to 16 hours a week at this point, but we could use somebody full-time in there.
Sarah, Rick here. One of the things that we're seeing from the homeless people out there, and I don't know how this ties into if it ties into the COSUP grant, is to get these people in to housing, and where the stumbling block seems to be where if they've got some type of record for substance abuse and so forth, the people won't rent to these people, or that they can't obtain funding. Is there any information in that? So we can get around that, I guess I'm looking.
Yeah, because interestingly, a lot of those rules are federal rules that are in place as far as really having offender background or a conviction with drugs can prevent people from getting into the housing. None of these areas really focus on that sole issue by itself. But I think there's certainly recognition that there's a housing issue across the country. And a lot of these program funds are allowed to be used towards rehousing individuals, but that doesn't, just having the money doesn't solve the problem that we're encountering out there. So I hear you, but I don't know that any of these necessarily fit into that that box.
All right, thank you.
So strategically, since we're receiving some grants that are already directly associated with these items, to continue those grants, is it beneficial to indicate those as our priority so that the Family Treatment Court or the COSUP funds continue? I think, certainly, the mental illness in the jail is appropriate, but I don't know if there's a strategic reason to try to continue our grant funds by indicating that interest.
I think that my vote would be for anything on the list that's like prevention / early intervention related. I mean, so much of what we do is on the backside, and I think that entities struggle to do that front side work to stem the flow.
Yeah, my concern is where is the funding going to come from for like your milkweed and stuff like that after this thing expires if we don't get re-upped next year, and that's probably the biggest concern. You got chipper mentoring services, just anything for this prevention type sort of to sustain the people that are already in the programs.
All right, it's good feedback. Appreciate it.
So I think I spoke too soon, thinking we were going to end early. And it's noon, and I want to make sure everyone still has their lunch hour. So looks like our next meeting's December 6th. And then we have the large group not till January. So I guess all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. I'm going to make my own motion in second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Goodbye, folks.